Assalamu alaikum and greetings everyone. On July 31st, 2019, Rise Canada, which is a website and a YouTube channel maintained by Ron Banerjee or Rininder Banerjee, uploaded a video of an anti-Islam protest that took place in downtown Toronto sometime in June 2019. This protest appears to have been organized by Pegida Canada. Pegida Canada is a white, right-wing, ultra-nationalist, xenophobic group that exists across Western Europe, and they have a chapter in Canada as well. In this video at this protest, there's footage of an Indian man who has a blue book on Islam, and he rips apart the book and he stamps on it and he spits on it. And as I was watching this video, I recognized not one but two things. I recognized the blue book because that's one of the books that we give out at street corners here in Toronto, Canada. It was written by my friend. But I also recognized the gentleman who was ripping up the book. I know that fellow Somwal or Samwell from downtown Toronto. I bump into him at Dundas Square. I think he's a homeless guy. I'm not really sure. But I know him to be a good, simple guy. He's really a simpleton. He's non-political. He's not involved in any of these kinds of political issues at all. So as soon as I saw the video, I knew that something wasn't right. Why is this simpleton who's never involved in politics, who's friends with me, who's friends with other Muslims? We even see him in our local downtown mosque during Ramadan, and he's eating with us. So he's eating our food at the mosque, and now he's at an anti-Islam, anti-Muslim protest. It didn't make sense to me. So I knew something was off right away.
What I would like to say is Islam is not a religion of peace. It's more or less of a political ideology. There's nothing spiritual or philosophical about this religion. You know, now it's all, you know, if you actually read the Quran, all it talks about is, you know, if the infidel refuses to convert, finish them all. And, you know, the more infidels or non-believers you kill, it's like a blessing. Now, what kind of religion is that? Like a bunch of dancing children. The police came to my house! Get out of the way! Toilet paper for later. Yeah. Look, the police station. Get out of club! Get a job! Stop collecting welfare!
Now, the next time I bumped into Somwal in downtown, I asked him, hey, what's up? I mean, why were you at this white racist protest? Why were you at this anti-Islam protest? Why did you feel the need to rip up our book and stamp on it and spit on it? Why did you do this? And it didn't take any further prompting from me. He immediately confessed and he said, listen, I got paid $500 cash by a friend of Eric Brazza to attend this protest and to rip up this book on Islam and stamp on it and spit on it. Now that immediately made sense to me because, as I said, I know Somwal to be a simpleton, a simple guy. He's non-political. He's not involved in any of these kinds of things. So he told me, both off camera and on camera, that a friend of Eric Brazza's and Ron Banerjee's, who identified himself as Fred Stevenson, said, I'll pay you $500, attend the protest, and rip up this book and spit on it. Now what's really interesting in this footage that you'll watch is Somwal's description of this fellow who identified himself as Fred Stevenson. Just watch this. I'm here with Mr. Somwal. I bumped into him today and he explained to me what happened. So like Somwal, you know, what happened with that and why were you ripping up the Muslim book?
Okay, I was paid, I was offered $500 to, if I would do that. This guy who said his name was Fred Stevenson. At first I thought oh, hi, Mr. Kevin Johnston. I said, oh, no. My name is Fred Stevenson. And I said, you look like Kevin Johnston. He said, no, my name is Fred Stevenson. He said, and I was like, would you do this for $500? Tear up the rip up an Islamic booklet and you know, spit on it and stomp on it and
Right. So who introduced you to this guy who passed himself off as Fred Stevenson? Who introduced you?
Some people from Pegida, Ron and Brazil.
Eric Brazil?
Yeah.
So Eric Brazil and Ron introduced you to this guy who looked just like Kevin Johnston.
Yeah.
To the extent that you thought he was Kevin Johnston.
Yeah.
You said, hello,
Yeah.
Mr.
Yeah.
Johnston.
Yeah.
And he said, no, I'm not Kevin Johnston, I'm Fred Stevenson, yeah?
Yeah.
And then did he actually pay you the $500 after you stamped on the book?
Yeah, behind closed doors.
Behind closed doors.
He went by. He used a name called Fred Stevenson.
But you're saying that you thought it was Kevin J. Johnston.
Yeah.
This is a picture of Kevin Johnston. Like, is this what he looks like?
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah. Yep.
I hope this kind of shows you the moral character of these anti-Islam, anti-Muslim people when they're willing to just pick up random people and pay them money to do that kind of thing. So anyhow, I hope this video kind of redeems you, so thanks for doing it. So this I found really interesting, that when Samwal met this friend of Eric Brazil who was going to pay him $500, Samwal immediately identified this person as Kevin Johnston. He thought he was Kevin Johnston. Kevin Johnston is a well-known xenophobe, anti-immigrant, political activist, and he's known for exactly these kinds of antics in the past. For example, Kevin J. Johnston offered around $1,000 to any student from the public school system in Mississauga that could give him some secret footage or hidden video footage of Muslims preaching extremism in the prayers at the public school system in Mississauga. Interestingly, no one was able to produce such footage for him, by the way. So here we have a very interesting situation, and we have to be careful because I have to be honest, we don't have 100% evidence that Kevin J. Johnston paid Samwal to rip up Islam books at an anti-Islam protest. We only have about 99.8% of evidence and certainty that it was Kevin J. Johnston. But if it wasn't Kevin J. Johnston, this is perhaps even more troubling. This means that there's not one, but two people who look exactly like Kevin J. Johnston. Ugly men in their mid-50s, in the Greater Toronto area, who are also active in Mississauga, who are willing to pay financially underprivileged people to do things that would hurt and tarnish the image of Islam and Muslims in Canada. Now that's a pretty scary thought. Kevin J. Johnston could have I won't say an evil, I would say an even more evil identical twin brother who does exactly the same things that he does, who is friends with the exact same people that he, Kevin J. Johnston, is friends with. But if this was you, Kevin J. Johnston, this really proves that you are a loser. You really are a loser. And you will always remain a loser. And again, if this wasn't Kevin J. Johnston, then Kevin Johnston should certainly let the police know, because if there's an identical and even more evil identical twin brother of his who looks exactly like him, who also lives in the GTA, who is also active in Mississauga, who also pays people to do bad things against Islam and Muslims, who looks exactly like him, who has the exact same friends that he, Kevin J. Johnston, does, perhaps he should let the police know so that he doesn't get wrongly implicated in any bad things like this. If this wasn't Kevin J. Johnston, this is still a question for Pegida Canada. Who was it from Pegida Canada, or what supporter of Pegida Canada was paying this simple helpless guy to show up at a anti-Islam protest and rip up books about Islam? What kind of a commentary is this on the moral integrity, on the level of moral standards or ethics of the Islamophobic industry in Canada? These are the same people that tell you that they are the real Canadians. They are the true Canadians. They are the ones standing up for traditional Canadian values. Is bribery a traditional Canadian value? Mississauga, step up. You have some redeeming to do. Straight up. You have some redeeming to do. You voted for this guy. You voted for someone like Kevin J. Johnston. 13.49%. You have some explaining to do. You have to step up and you have to say, not in our name. Take care.